Have you ever wondered what if it's not your age draining your vitality, but something quietly sabotaging you from your plate every single day? Hi, I'm Dr. James. After over 3 decades of working closely with thousands of men over 60, I've seen a pattern too consistent to ignore. Many blame age for low energy, fading intimacy, and poor blood flow when in reality, the real culprit is often hiding in plain sight, disguised as so-called healthy foods on their dinner plate. Yes, you heard that right. Some foods, especially certain vegetables that are commonly seen as safe, might be silently choking your circulation, disrupting your nitric oxide production, and gradually stealing the spark that once made you feel vibrant, confident, and intimately connected. What's critical to understand is this: after age 60, the male body undergoes a series of subtle, continuous changes, hormonal, neurological, and vascular. These don't just wear down your physical stamina. They slowly eat away at your emotional resilience too. Over time, you might feel less like yourself, less energetic, less confident, and more distant from your partner. And that emotional drain often becomes the invisible wall between you and the vibrant life you used to live. In today's video, I'll reveal a hard truth most people never talk about. There are vegetables that may be damaging your blood vessels, impairing nitric oxide function, and making it harder for your body to maintain strong, healthy circulation, especially in the places where it matters most. But don't worry, this isn't about eliminating vegetables altogether. It's about knowing which ones to avoid and why they can be particularly harmful to older men, because when circulation declines, so does mental clarity, mood, and intimacy. The physical and emotional are deeply connected, and restoring proper blood flow isn't just about function, it's about rebuilding confidence, rekindling closeness, and reclaiming joy in everyday life. If you're ready to take back your strength, you're looking to feel alive again, sharp in your mind, powerful in your body, and connected in your relationships, then this video was made for you. You'll discover what to avoid, how to eat better for your age, and practical strategies you can apply today to start changing the way you feel from the inside out. Before we dive in, if you're serious about restoring your energy, intimacy, and circulation after 60, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. And if this video resonates with you, type 1 in the comments. If it doesn't, type 0 so I can keep improving and serving your needs better. Now, let's begin by getting to the root of the issue, something most men overlook entirely: why blood flow naturally declines after 60 and how a few surprising vegetables might actually make that decline worse. Understanding this is your first step to restoring the vitality, intimacy, and circulation your body still wants to give you. 1. Why does blood flow decline after 60, and how could vegetables, of all things, be making it worse? That's the question most men never think to ask. They feel the change: slower mornings, colder hands and feet, weaker performance in the bedroom, but they often assume it's just a normal part of aging. But what if that assumption is quietly preventing you from regaining the vitality your body is still capable of? Back when I began practicing medicine, I thought I understood circulation. I could name every artery, quote every textbook, but that clinical knowledge didn't prepare me for the real-world conversations I had with older men who weren't just losing blood flow, but losing a part of themselves, their sense of strength, their presence, their connection to life, and to their partner. Blood flow is not just about arteries and veins, it's about identity, confidence, and emotional vitality. It affects how we show up in our relationships, how grounded we feel in our own bodies, and whether we wake up feeling ready or worn out. And here's what I've learned over the decades. After age 60, the male vascular system doesn't collapse all at once. It slowly erodes. The inner lining of your blood vessels, the endothelium, starts to stiffen. Nitric oxide, the molecule your body relies on to dilate blood vessels, declines. Without enough nitric oxide, your blood vessels can't open effectively, which means blood has a harder time reaching your extremities, especially the pelvic region. This often leads to that creeping chill in the feet and hands. And yes, in the bedroom as well. Now here's the twist that surprises most of my patients. Many men double down on healthy eating to fight this. And of course, vegetables are at the top of that list. Doctors have been saying it for decades: eat your greens. But what they often fail to say is this: not all vegetables are friendly to aging circulation. In fact, some can quietly make things worse. It's not that vegetables are bad, but after 60, your body processes certain plant compounds differently. Some vegetables contain plant-based estrogens or anti-nutrients that were once harmless or even helpful in younger years, but may now interfere with hormonal balance, nitric oxide production, or the flexibility of your arteries. These effects aren't immediate. They're slow, almost invisible, and by the time symptoms show up, foggy thinking, sluggish energy, or a lack of arousal, it's often been happening for months or even years. I remember a patient, let's call him Thomas, who came to me at 69, retired, active, eating what most would call a clean diet: lean proteins, whole grains, and lots of salads. He was doing everything right on the surface, but he told me, "Doc, I feel tired all the time, like I'm here but not really here. My body isn't responding the way it used to." He hadn't had a full, satisfying erection in over a year. He blamed age. I blamed inflammation. When we looked deeper into his diet, it became clear. Several vegetables he ate daily were likely compromising his circulation in subtle but serious ways. What this means for you is simple but crucial. If you're eating healthy and still feeling sluggish, disconnected, or unsatisfied, you need to look closer. The problem might not be your age. It might be a few innocent-looking vegetables on your plate that are doing more harm than good. So how do we fight back? First, understand that after 60 your body has different needs. You need circulation-friendly foods, those that support nitric oxide, reduce vascular inflammation, and don't interfere with hormones. You need to minimize hidden sources of plant-based estrogens, excess sodium, and synthetic additives. And most importantly, you need to stop assuming that what's healthy for a 30-year-old is still healthy for you now. This isn't about giving up vegetables. It's about eating intelligently, with your stage of life in mind. Your vitality depends on it not just physically, but emotionally. Because when circulation improves, your body responds, but so does your mind, your mood, and your connection with others. In the next part of this video, I'll reveal the 4 vegetables that you may want to avoid, especially if you're noticing signs of declining energy, intimacy, or circulation. One of them might be sitting in your refrigerator right now. Before we move on, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever felt like you were doing everything right, but still felt something was off? Share your thoughts below. Let's keep going. What you're about to learn could change how you see your diet and your health for good. 2. Could a so-called healthy vegetable be sabotaging your manhood every time you think you're making a smart food choice? In the last section, we explored why circulation naturally declines after 60 and how aging blood vessels paired with the wrong foods can quietly weaken your vitality. Now, let's dive into what I've found to be one of the most overlooked culprits. Certain vegetables that can disrupt your body's delicate hormonal and vascular balance. The first one may surprise you. You've probably had it this week. You may even believe it's helping you. But for men over 60, this common vegetable could be sending the exact wrong signals to your body. I'm talking about soy-based vegetables and derivatives like edamame, soy sprouts, soy milk, tofu, and soy protein snacks. Now, let me be clear, I'm not against plants. I'm a doctor. I believe deeply in nutrition. But I also believe in nuance. And the reality is, once you're over 60, your body doesn't respond to certain foods the way it used to. Soy is one of those foods that can quietly shift your hormones in a direction that works against your strength, intimacy, and energy. Here's why. Soy contains high levels of phytoestrogens, plant compounds that mimic estrogen inside your body. For younger individuals or women, these may not be problematic. But for an aging man whose testosterone levels are already declining naturally, adding more estrogen-like substances into your daily meals can create hormonal imbalance. And this imbalance doesn't stay theoretical. I've seen it show up in real, discouraging ways: fatigue, mental fog, low motivation, poor sleep, loss of muscle tone, and, most painfully, loss of intimacy. Men come into my clinic confused. They say things like, "Doc, I've cleaned up my diet. I'm eating more plants, less red meat. I snack on edamame. I stir soy sprouts into my salad. I drink soy milk instead of dairy. Why do I feel worse, not better?" And the answer often lies in hormonal signaling. These phytoestrogens bind to receptors in your body that regulate testosterone and nitric oxide production, 2 pillars of male vitality. When disrupted, blood vessels become less responsive. Blood doesn't flow as freely, especially where it matters most. This means weaker erections, less physical arousal, and a sense of disconnection that affects not just your body, but your relationship and self-esteem. I recall a patient, Gerald, who came to me at 66. He was recently retired, full of good intentions, and had made major dietary shifts: no red meat, no alcohol, more plant-based eating. But within 6 months his energy dropped, and his wife had noticed the distance. He told me, "I just don't feel like a man anymore." When we reviewed his meals, soy was everywhere: protein bars, soy milk, tofu, stir-fry, edamame, a snack. So we made one major change. We removed soy and replaced it with circulation-friendly, testosterone-safe foods. Within a few weeks, his energy returned. A couple months later, his intimacy improved. He told me with a smile, "My wife is laughing with me again." Now, I'm not saying soy is poison, but for older men struggling with low energy or intimacy decline, it's one of the first things I examine, because it's sneaky. It hides in frozen meals, snacks, protein powders, even in some health drinks. And most doctors won't tell you this. It's not in the mainstream nutrition handbooks. But your body isn't mainstream. It's specific. It's aging. It deserves tailored care. So what can you do? Start by reading labels. Look for soy protein isolate, soy lecithin, tofu, or edamame in ingredient lists. If you find yourself consuming them regularly, take a break. Replace them with testosterone-friendly options like lentils, eggs, or lean animal protein depending on your health goals. Support nitric oxide production through foods like beets, leafy greens, and dark chocolate. Focus on anti-circulation meals that won't confuse your hormonal signals. Most of all, give Give yourself the chance to feel strong again, not just physically, but emotionally. Because when your blood flows, so does your confidence, so does your desire, so does your sense of connection with the person beside you. And here's the twist. Soy isn't even the worst offender. There's another vegetable coming up, one you probably believe is heart healthy, that may actually be restricting oxygen to your muscles, fogging your brain, and cooling your bedroom connection. It's likely in your refrigerator right now, and it's probably the last thing you'd suspect. Let's talk about it next. Could a beautifully purple, heart-healthy vegetable actually be weakening your circulation and silently disrupting your most intimate moments? In the last section, we looked at how soy, though often labeled healthy, can mislead the aging male body into hormonal confusion. But soy isn't the only plant-based saboteur hiding in plain sight. There's another vegetable, widely praised in Mediterranean cookbooks, health magazines, and diet plans, that might be slowly turning down the volume on your energy and vitality. And most men have never even questioned it. I'm talking about eggplant. Yes, eggplant, the shiny, deep purple vegetable you might have grilled last week, layered into lasagna, or sautéed with garlic and olive oil. It's praised for its color, its antioxidants, and its versatility. But for men over 60, eating eggplant frequently could quietly interfere with the very circulation your body is fighting to maintain. Let me explain why. Eggplant contains a compound called niacin found in its skin. Technically, niacin is an antioxidant, which sounds great until you understand how it behaves. Unlike most antioxidants that neutralize free radicals, niacin binds tightly to iron in your bloodstream. That binding action blocks your body from using iron effectively. Why does that matter? Because iron is essential for oxygen transport. It's what helps your blood deliver oxygen to your brain, your muscles, and yes, your reproductive organs. Without sufficient available iron, your blood carries less oxygen, and that means your brain feels foggy, your muscles fatigue faster, and during moments of arousal, your body struggles to respond fully, if at all. One of my patients, Thomas, age 71, came to me after months of frustration. A retired engineer, disciplined and careful, he cooked his own meals, avoided processed foods, stayed active. But he told me something was off. I'm doing everything right, but I feel sluggish, like I'm wading through fog. I don't feel present, not physically, not emotionally. As we reviewed his diet, something stood out. He had developed a daily habit of roasting eggplant. He loved the flavor. It felt healthy. But in his case, daily exposure to niacin was reducing his iron bio. His blood was no longer transporting oxygen as efficiently, especially to the lower half of his body. And here's where it gets more serious. When blood flow is restricted, when oxygen can't nourish the tissues of your pelvis and genitals, the impact goes beyond the physical. Intimacy starts to fade, not from lack of love, but from lack of response. You may care deeply for your partner, but the moment feels strained. You begin to avoid closeness, not out of disinterest, but out of embarrassment. And that gap grows not just in the bedroom, but in your emotional connection. It's subtle, but it's painful, and it's preventable. The truth is, most men never think of eggplant as a threat. It's not greasy. It's not processed, and it carries that glow of healthy eating. But what's healthy for the average 30-year-old isn't necessarily beneficial for you at 60 or 70. Your blood vessels are more sensitive. Your hormonal balance is more fragile. And the nutrients your body once handled with ease may now require a more thoughtful approach. So what can you do? If eggplant is a frequent part of your meals and you've been feeling more sluggish, more disconnected, or less physically responsive, it may be time to take a break. Eliminate it for a few weeks. See how your body reacts. Sometimes, the quietest changes bring the loudest results. And just when you think you've outsmarted the obvious threats, there's another hidden danger waiting in your pantry. It's not a vegetable, but it starts as one. It's commonly packaged in cans, found in sauces, soups, and stews. But the real danger isn't the tomato, it's the container. Because what's leaching out of that can could be a synthetic chemical that mimics estrogen, hardens arteries, irritates your prostate, and puts your health at risk in ways most men never suspect. Let's take a closer look, because it might be sitting in your cupboard right now. Could the secret to restoring intimacy start by changing the can in your cupboard? I'll never forget the moment David, a man in his early 60s, sat quietly across from me in my office, arms folded tightly, eyes downcast, not because of chest pain, diabetes, or any classic symptom. He was there for something far more private. "Doc," he said, "it's like the lights are on, but nothing's happening." He wasn't short on love. His heart was still fully committed to his wife, but his body silent, unresponsive, and the more he tried to fix it, the more discouraged he became. We looked at everything: his lifestyle, medications, hormone labs. Then we dug into his diet. It sounded clean, even admirable at first. Homemade chili, pasta sauces, tomato soup from canned tomatoes. It seemed healthy, simple. But for a man over 60, that convenience came with a silent price, because the danger wasn't the tomatoes themselves. Tomatoes, especially cooked ones, are rich in lycopene, a powerful antioxidant. But when stored in metal cans lined with BPA bisphenol A, they can become a different kind of threat altogether. Here's the problem. BPA is a synthetic chemical that disrupts your endocrine system. It mimics estrogen in the body, throwing off your natural hormonal balance. And for men past 60 already experiencing lower testosterone, this estrogen mimicry acts like throwing cold water on an already flickering flame. But BPA doesn't stop at hormones. It's also been linked to arterial stiffness and vascular inflammation. That means the flexible blood vessels that once responded easily to arousal begin to narrow, harden, and resist blood flow. Less blood reaches the penis. Erections weaken. Intimacy transforms into frustration. And slowly, almost distance creeps in between couples, not from lack of love, but from unspoken biological breakdown. Here's the truth. This isn't rare. It's widespread. Canned tomatoes are in nearly every American pantry. They're cheap, they're easy. But if you're eating them daily or even weekly, that BPA exposure builds up over time. It becomes a silent saboteur, undermining your energy, your circulation, and your confidence in the most private corners of your life. David didn't believe me at first. Canned tomatoes, really? But I asked him to try one simple change. Swap out his canned tomatoes for fresh ones, or buy jarred tomato sauces in glass containers completely BPA-free. Within just a few weeks, he began to notice a shift, not just in his physical responsiveness but in his sense of masculinity. He stood taller, spoke more openly, and eventually the space between him and his wife began to close. What started with one dietary change became a turning point for his body, his marriage, and his self-worth. So here's the takeaway. If you're a man over 60 and struggling with low energy, intimacy issues, or a subtle sense that something just isn't working anymore, don't overlook the small things. Don't underestimate the packaging. Read the labels. Watch what's lining your food containers. Choose fresh tomatoes when possible. Look for BPA-free on any canned product or opt for glass jars. Your bloodstream, your hormones, and your relationship will thank you, because the truth is, BPA exposure is not just about long-term cancer risk or fertility studies. For aging men, it's about day-to-day vitality. It's about whether your body responds when your heart wants to connect. It's about reclaiming the spark, not just with your partner, but within yourself. And if you're wondering if something as common as canned tomatoes could do this, what else am I missing? You're not alone, because up next is a vegetable that's even more deceptive. It's served at holiday dinners, praised for gut health, pickled, fermented, and often seen as a digestive hero. But for men over 60, it delivers a dangerous punch, raising blood pressure, suppressing desire, and hardening blood vessels when you need them most. Let's take a deeper look inside this so-called healthy vegetable and why you may want to think twice before taking your next bite. Could the very foods you thought were healing your gut be quietly working against your heart, your hormones, and your most intimate connections? When men come to me with intimacy concerns, food is rarely the first thing they bring up. They talk about stress, about aging, medications, maybe diet usually shows up later, an afterthought. But after more than 30 years helping men over 60 reclaim their vitality, one truth has become crystal clear. What you put on your plate is either healing you or quietly hurting you. And sometimes, what seems healthy on the surface is doing damage where it matters most. Beneath. One of the most overlooked threats I've seen in older men is pickled and fermented vegetables. Those crunchy cucumbers, spicy kimchi, tangy sauerkraut. Gut health heroes, right? I've met men who beam with pride, telling me they eat these every day, believing they're doing something great for their bodies. And while these foods can offer digestive benefits, especially for younger, more resilient systems for older men, they often come with a hidden cost, one that directly impacts blood flow and intimacy. Here's what most people miss. These vegetables are often loaded with sodium and vinegar, far beyond what your aging arteries can tolerate. As we grow older, our blood vessels naturally lose elasticity. The one supple lining that easily expanded to allow healthy blood flow becomes stiff and sluggish. Add a high-sodium diet into that equation, and you create the perfect storm for elevated blood pressure and constricted circulation. Too much sodium causes your body to retain water, thickens your blood, and raises internal pressure in your arteries. It's already bad news for your heart, but it's even worse for the delicate microvessels that fuel sexual function. These vessels are like the smallest branches on a tree. They're first to suffer when circulation is compromised. What follows is all too familiar: weaker erections, slower arousal, and growing emotional distance between you and the person you love. And vinegar, though natural, contains acetic acid, which in high amounts can irritate the stomach lining, disrupt potassium balance, and when combined with sodium further inflame your blood vessels. It's no surprise that men who eat pickled or fermented vegetables daily often start experiencing symptoms like dryness, reduced sensation, disrupted sleep, or even lingering fatigue. Subtle signs that the vascular system is under strain. I recall one patient, Leo, 69 years old, razor sharp, and proud of how well he took care of himself. He worked out daily, avoided fried food, and ate fermented vegetables religiously. "Keeps my gut in check," he'd say with a grin. But behind that grin was a concern he hadn't voiced to anyone, not even his wife. His libido had taken a sharp dive. Erections were sporadic, and his wife had begun asking gently, "Are you feeling okay?" When we reviewed his diet, the salt and vinegar load from his daily pickled veggies jumped off the page. He was consuming nearly double the recommended sodium limit, just from seasonings and fermented foods. I asked him to remove them entirely for 3 weeks. He hesitated, but he trusted me, and when he returned he looked like a different man. His energy was back, his hands and feet were warmer. Most importantly, a spark had returned between him and his wife. A spark he feared had gone out forever. See, this isn't about giving up flavor or joy. It's about giving your body a fighting chance. The older we get, the more intentional we must be. High-sodium, high-acid foods may have a place in moderation, but for men over 60 struggling with blood flow and intimacy, these can be silent saboteurs. And if you're wondering if even so many common vegetables are working against me, what's left? You're not alone. Because knowing what to avoid is only half the battle. What truly changes the game is knowing what to add. There are foods-specific, natural, nourishing ingredients that can enhance blood flow, restore confidence, and help you feel more alive, more responsive, and more connected than you have in years. Foods that reignite what you thought was lost and bring you closer to your partner in ways that go far beyond the physical. Let's talk about those next dots, because what you choose to put on your plate next could be the beginning of everything you've been hoping to feel again. 6. Very man who walks into my office carries the same silent question. Sometimes he says it out loud, sometimes it's just in his eyes, but it's always there. Can I really get it back? What he's really asking isn't just about function, about identity. He wants to know if he can feel strong again, desired, connected, if he can once more feel like the man who used to look at the woman he loves and know in his bones that he could rise to meet her, that it's not too late, that there's still something inside him worth fighting for. And what I've seen over and over is this: the male body doesn't stop responding after 60, it just needs the right kind of support. If the wrong foods can constrict your blood flow and steal your confidence, the right ones can do the opposite. Just like weeds in a garden choke off life, inflammatory vegetables and hidden chemicals clog your circulation. But when you pull those weeds and start feeding your body what it truly craves, something incredible happens, a revival. So what should you eat instead? Let's start with foods that naturally boost nitric oxide, the molecule your body uses to relax blood vessels and send blood where it matters most. One of my favorite go-tos is beets. They're rich in natural nitrates, which your body converts into nitric oxide. A small glass of beet juice or some roasted beets a few times a week can truly make a difference. I've had men tell me they felt warmer, more awake, and more responsive just days after starting. Next, watermelon. Most people don't realize it, but watermelon is high in citrulline, a compound that helps widen blood vessels and enhance performance. It's hydrating, refreshing, and especially helpful during warmer months when energy tends to dip. Spinach and leafy greens are another quiet powerhouse. They naturally thin the blood just enough to support smooth circulation without putting stress on the heart. And when you choose fresh, organic greens rather than pickled or vinegar-soaked options, you're healing your vessels instead of irritating them. And don't forget about garlic. Yes, it might tinge your breath, but what it does for your arteries, it is worth every clove. Garlic reduces inflammation in the vascular lining, lowers blood pressure, and improves overall flow. For many men, just a small daily dose makes them feel more alive, more in sync with their body and with their partner. Avocados deserve a spot on your plate too. Their healthy fats support testosterone production, while their potassium content helps counteract sodium and regulate blood pressure. They're creamy, satisfying, and far more powerful for circulation than most people realize, and perhaps one of the most overlooked healing foods. Cooked tomatoes, just not from BPA-lined cans. When you cook them fresh or use tomatoes stored in glass jars, you get a potent dose of lycopene, a nutrient that supports prostate health and helps soften stiff arteries. It's a simple food with profound vascular benefits. But this isn't just about nutrients. These foods are messages. They tell your body, you're safe, you can relax, you can circulate again. They whisper to your vessels, to your nerves, to your hormonal systems, you're not done yet. And when you begin to swap out the 4 harmful vegetables we've discussed with these healing ones, your body listens. It doesn't take years. Sometimes it doesn't even take months. I've seen it in men who were ready to give up. Men who hadn't felt a real connection in years. Once they made these changes, not drastic ones, but consistent ones, they started waking up differently. Their hands weren't as cold. Their eyes had a glint again. And in quiet, unspoken ways, their relationships warmed too. This isn't about chasing youth. It's about reclaiming vitality. It's about remembering that the man you once were is still there and always has been. The man who has so much more to give. The man whose body still wants to serve him. He just needs to be fed properly. Now you've seen the whole picture. You know which vegetables may be quietly working against you and which foods have the power to restore your strength, your presence, and your intimacy. But there's one final truth I want to leave you with, and it might be the most important one of all. This is not about going back. It's about moving forward with clarity, with intention, and with the quiet confidence that your best years of connection, vitality, and inner power can still be ahead of you. You've learned how soy-based vegetables, BPA-lined canned goods, pickled foods, and even certain seemingly heart-healthy plants can restrict circulation and confuse your hormones. And you've discovered how foods like beets, watermelon, leafy greens, garlic, avocado, and fresh tomatoes can reawaken your body's natural system, supporting nitric oxide, balancing testosterone, and giving you the best chance to feel like yourself again. But information is just the beginning. What transforms your life is what you do next. I've seen it over and over. Men who felt like they were too far gone, who thought their body had stopped listening, begin to heal simply by choosing to care, not just for their blood flow, but for their identity, for the connection that matters most, for the version of themselves they miss, but who's still there. So let me ask you this. From one man to another, what would it mean to you to feel like yourself again, not just in body but in spirit? Because that starts with a choice. One meal, one swap, one decision to remove what's quietly harming you and begin feeding what brings you back to life. You don't need perfection, you just need awareness and a little willingness. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. What's one thing you're taking away from this? Or maybe one thing you've already changed? And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing and tapping the bell. Not because you have to, but because this journey deserves support. You deserve support, and we're here for that. Because you're not broken, you're not too old, and you're certainly not alone. Your body, which still remembers how to respond, all it's waiting for is the right signal. Let this be the day you send it.